Take care.
Watch out for that first step. It's a doozy.
WoW stood for Wizard of War, not World of Warcraft.
I am a Wizard of War.
Wizard of War began as an arcade game released in 1981 by Midway. This is a game that takes place in several different Pac-Man style maze dungeons.
Remember, I'm a wizard.
And now, a bombshell new lawsuit was filed today by the victims of the October 7th massacre against UNRWA for its complicity in terrorism, providing graphic details of how UNRWA knowingly funded Hamas and actively participated in the diversion of billions of funds for terrorism. The evidence against the UN body is damning. Let's take a look at the report. Victims of the October 7th terrorist attack filed a lawsuit today in U.S. federal court that provides new details on how UNRWA led a billion-dollar money laundering operation that funded Hamas. The lawsuit documents over a decade of alleged fraud and corruption in humanitarian aid to Gaza that was distributed through the United Nations. According to one of the lead lawyers in the case, the findings in the lawsuit demonstrate that UNRWA was aware of and actively participated in the diversion of funds earmarked to support the civilians in Gaza into channels that ensured those funds were used for terrorism and in violation of international law. One of the most damning pieces of new evidence presented in the case documents UNRWA's insistence that aid money be distributed in US dollars, a currency that Gazan civilians could not use, and a unique practice only to Gaza that is not used in any other UN refugee program. This ensured that the dollars could not be used without going through Hamas money changers, who took 10 to 20% in fees. This payment scheme significantly reduced the real value of aid going into Gaza and gave Hamas an estimated $2 to $4 million every month. The lawsuit was filed by 101 plaintiffs against UNRWA and against 7 named commissioner generals, deputy commissioner generals, and a director who all oversaw the illegal schemes and were based in New York. UNRWA's operational costs and staff size per refugee served are nearly 10 times that of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, further exacerbating the waste and abuse of aid meant for Gaza civilians and facilitating funding and support for Hamas terrorists. The lawsuit also provides proof that Hamas openly controlled 24 out of 26 leadership positions in the UNRWA employee union, that at least 10% of UNRWA employees were members of Hamas. Over 100 were proven to have taken part directly in the October 7th terror attack, that UNRWA teachers held Israeli hostages in their homes, and that UNRWA was fully aware of how completely Hamas dominated all levels of UNRWA's educational system, even printing textbooks with a UN seal that taught children to write, "I will commit jihad to liberate the homeland."
Okay, sorry about that. I did it again. I'm sorry, folks. Gideon Layson. No wonder people are leaving. I was like, why? Am I not saying the right things? Oh, this kills me. All right. So, thankfully, you guys heard some videos and saw some images of Dragon's Lair, kind of picking up from last week, about how video gaming is kind of overlooked and how influential it was. Yeah, maybe I should go ahead and edit it. It'll take me like 24 hours, unfortunately, to edit the first part to some degree, but I'll do that. Apologies again, folks. I'll get it right someday. At any rate, again, hello, Elizabeth Victoria. Gideon Layson. Yeah, so I said all these things. I'm not going to say it again. Forgive me. Let's just move on to the movie review. I guess it's we'll call it maybe divine intervention. But I was preaching the icon that I was sharing earlier, which is the background. Let me just go ahead and share that again. I just was sharing the story of how this icon is very meaningful to me, because a friend who had some issues, who may have set a fire in a dormitory of all places, a very spiritual place, showed this to me. And that's when I saw it for the first time. In a room that was turned charcoal, nothing survived. This icon pretty much was unscathed. So it meant a lot. And then the icon, of course, is Peter, Christ walking the water, and Peter asking for the blessing to do the same, which he got. And then he may have been overwhelmed by his ego or lost sight of Christ, as I say, and began to sink. And as he was dying, he yelled out to Christ again. And so Christ reached out and saved him from the clutches of death. So, yeah, it's just the fact that I saw from a guy who may have set a dormitory on fire and put others in danger, but was completely moved by how this icon survived, and that is really meaningful. And of course, the icon is meaningful in itself. Okay, but I was also saying earlier, and we'll get to that. Let's get to the review, and we'll talk about that in discussion afterwards. I guess I'll say those things again I said at the beginning, at the end of the stream. And again, I'll invite people up if you want to come up at the end. Okay. Yeah, Groundhog Day, 1993. Bill Murray. Yeah, good actor. He's done some good movies. I mentioned Scrooged last week, and I mixed Scrooged up with this one. I'll have those brain farts once in a while. Yeah, he did some other ones I like. St. Vincent is kind of a personal favorite, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's more of a blasphemy kind of thing, really, especially if you take it at face value. But I do like how the message is that anyone can be redeemed, even though its final solution, of course, is to give into hedonism and that type of thing. Regardless, I thought it was a decent movie, but he did some others. But yeah, this one is powerful. If you have not watched it, I highly recommend it. But that being said, yeah, watching it again this week and combing through it, I've got to say I've noticed things that I've never quite noticed before. That's quite profound. So yeah, let's go on to the first moment. Yeah, but again, doing the same things while expecting different results. This is the theme for today. This is why I chose this movie. By the way, John Noon of John Noon Sci-Fi. He did this months ago. It turns out I might even watch it live. I can't remember, to be honest with you. So he's one that focuses on finding Christian messages in movies. It's quite, let's say, the opposite of what I do. I'm here to expose how Christianity has been misrepresented and undermined by Hollywood, and how instead paganism has been promoted and so on. So, in other words, exposing Hollywood. At any rate, I'm intrigued. I'm going to watch that stream again after this because I'm kind of curious about what he had to say. Because I found both, but as Christians, we have the tendency to look at things with a Christian perspective. And so we'll extract Christian messages, even though they're not necessarily Christian. Just be mindful of that, at any rate. So, just like the icon, blinded by ego, the movie starts with this weatherman talking about what the weather's like. And of course, he's got to mention how wonderful California is and how it's always sunny. And then he talks about the storm, and he says, "Well, you know what? In our area in Pennsylvania, which is full of Amish, by the way, which may or may not be a coincidence, the storm in Pennsylvania, it's not going to touch Pennsylvania. We'll be okay. It's going to blow over." And so this weatherman predicts the weather improperly. Whoa, and a major news break there, right? Major news flash. I mean, but this is also a biblical message. Again, looking at things through a Christian perspective. Yeah, for those who can perceive the weather. This guy's having problems even perceiving the weather, and he's a weatherman. So I find that intriguing. And he's presented as a guy who's very self-centered, very egotistical. So it's intriguing. All right, again, a 2-minute marker now. He's being emasculated, of course. So she's making fun of him. She's condescending. She's talking about how pathetic it is, the job that he has to do. He has to go out to Punxsutawney and cover the groundhog, you know, and that kind of thing. And so there's the back and forth in that, which is quite typical of Hollywood. Okay, the pagan undertones in this movie. Yeah, I mean, they're subtle, but they're present if you're paying attention and secondly, being honest with yourself about what you're seeing. And again, there's the wording that's being covered up. At any rate, at about 2 minutes in, you'll see some number of things going on, including Channel 9. Amir poked fun at me because we did this grading thing of how evil things are and the number of sixes you would use. And he would say, you know, the number of threes, because threes are the son of sixes, basically making fun of the whole numerology thing. Yeah, what a gent he was. At any rate, I mean, if we're going to be honest, we got to acknowledge that, you know, at least paganism uses that. I mean, it's biblical. So I don't know why anyone with any self-respect or knowledge or brains would mock that. But I understand that some people take it too far. Regardless, we're talking about pagans here, and Hollywood is evidently pagan, so it's worth at least mentioning, at least pondering, is it not? So, yeah, it says that it's the oldest, and this is quoting, oldest festival in America, okay? Festival, feast, religious celebration. Groundhog Day sees its shadow. It's 6 more weeks of winter. If the groundhog sees its shadow, it's 6 more weeks. Why 6 again? Again, that number is prominent in our discussion, especially through mass media. And if you notice, we have the tendency now to just, if we need a number we're not quite sure, we'll throw out 6. I don't think that's accidental. Through my years of research in those movies that I've been researching intently, I've noticed that they're always using 6 for some reason, even during the lockdown, 6 feet apart. Where'd they get the magic number of 6? I mean, it's not even scientific. It's quite contrary, of course. There's 6, of course, there. But yeah, I mean, the list goes on and on. 6 degrees of separation and so on. Why are we always using 6? Okay, so this rodent sees the presence of its shadow, which is always weird. Isn't that weird that if this thing sees its shadow, that means 6 more, which means more winter. So yeah, so if there's sun, then dun 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 dun, more winter. That's kind of, I don't know, it's really weird. And why is this rodent given so much power? It's able to talk to us or to the select few, the inner circle, and tell us what the weather is going to be like and how much that impacts society. Very good point. Thanks, Breakfast Gun. Yeah, the 6th month, Pride Week, Pride before the fall. All right. Yeah. So, yet again, he's talking about how I covered the swallows returning 6 years in a row. There's that magic number again. Any number they could have threw out, the writers and directors and editors and producers and so on. They chose 6 again. Is that really a coincidence? At the 7-minute marker, have I had to point out a fixation on 6? I mean, why should I even have this discussion? Well, because, as I said, it's prominent. It's not only prominent in mass media, which is evidently pagan. It's prominent in our culture and our dialogue and our mindsets. Again, we have the tendency to resort to that as a measurement when we need a number. It's weird. Why does his recurring day always have to start at 6 a.m.? So his day, over and over and over again, starts at 6 a.m. Is that insignificant? Okay, so at the 8-minute marker, there's the odd moment of blindness. Again, we have a weatherman who's having problems discerning the weather. He's arrogant, he's egotistical, proudful, right? Full of pride. Yeah, I don't know about his personal life there, but who knows? It is Hollywood. And so this scene, if you watch it at the 8-minute mark, you'll see for yourself how it's quite awkward and how they're kind of emphasizing his moment of blindness. It's a bit exaggerated and extended, and it's something that's repeated in this movie, actually. And what's being discussed on the radio? The weather. The weather. That's not a topic these days, is it? All right. At the 10-minute marker. Okay, so chance of departure, 100%. He's talking to the bed and breakfast manager or owner that he's leaving. And she's asking him, are you checking out today? He's like, chance of departure, 100%. He's out of here. He's tired of these crazy simpletons, these traditionalists and so on. He can't stand the place. He needs to get back to the city. And one of the first things he does as he goes out to the community is he kind of mockingly, patronizingly pretends he's going to give the homeless man money and just walks off as if he doesn't have any. I don't know. Judge that how you want, but that's kind of weird. And it's also portraying a wrong walk in life. Speaking of the wrong walk, let me show you guys. Hopefully, I can show you guys a video clip without. Yeah, let's see. Here we go.
Take care. Watch out for that first step. It's a doozy.
Yeah, okay. So that's one I played at the very beginning of the stream. And again, it's reminiscent of the Psychon and this walk in life and so on. And it's also a play or let's say a contrast or maybe a comparison, however you want to look at it with regards to taking a leap of faith. It's so often that we're overwhelmed by fear, taking that first step to do something. I think it's better to just do the cross and take that first step, take that leap of faith, put it in God's hands. And you might be surprised at the end result. And if it's not something, let's say it's something that you want, and we'll get to that, then, well, Garth Brooks has a good response to that too. It's called Unanswered Prayers. A good song, one of my favorite songs. At any rate. All right, so the 12-minute marker. Been partying all night long. Underlying pagan festivities here. So I guess she's bragging about all the festivities that he's been missing out on, including partying all night long. So again, there's pagan undertones in this festival, at least, or holiday, at least how it's being portrayed in this movie. Okay, and again, the racism. It's interesting how not only is it okay, but it's quite normalized and expected that you call white people, especially of the South, rednecks, hicks, hillbillies, and so on, white trash everywhere else. Um, why is that being not only allowed but being promoted? And you apply that to the 21st century in this talk of quote unquote Europeans and how they're the source of all evil. Kitty Lisa, give me a break. Yeah, it becomes quite evident why. And that's typical of Hollywood, by the way, of course. 14. Seers of Seers. Prognosticator of prognosticators, they announced. So this is the magical groundhog that could talk to people, the elect inner circle, and tell us about the weather that influences and controls and changes, impacts our lives. Why was this groundhog so omnipotent? And this is not just in the movie, of course. But, you know, thankfully, Groundhog Day is not a holiday that holds a lot of weight, but it's still a national holiday. All right, at the 15-minute marker is 6 more weeks of winter prediction. Okay, 6 more weeks. All right, so we talked about that. But what's interesting here is usually these kinds of movies where reality is altered, right? And the main character is trying to figure out, am I going crazy? Did I just go into a different universe or reality? What's going on here? Usually there's some kind of transition, right? Like some like the exchanging of bodies thing. That was quite common in Hollywood. Or like Click, which we did recently. You know, going into the weird room with a weird character. Some kind of transition. But here we didn't have that in this movie. We have suddenly things changing. He's got to live his life over again, the same day over and over again. But there's no prompting or signaling that, hey, you know what, something has transpired, change it. But the weather, maybe it's this discussion of the weather. 6 more weeks prediction. I don't know. I'll let you to be the judge. Again, if you haven't watched it, I do recommend it, even though I'm tearing it apart. I do recommend this movie. It's got some excellent redeeming values. And even when I watched, I don't know how many times I watched this movie. I watched it several times. Even this week when I watched it, I was even moved by it. I got a little misty-eyed. So, you know, there's some powerful things going on in this movie. So I do recommend it. Just, you know, keep your guard up. Always. All right, at the 16-minute marker. It's worth pointing out this guy, you can't see him well here, but he's just this random guy who's wearing a beanie, so obviously culturally Jewish, but he's also, throughout the sequence in different scenes, he's like lingering around. So I don't know if he's a producer and he wanted to be in the shots or what, but I find that intriguing. But at any rate, all of a sudden, all the expectancy, all life stops because of this traffic jam and this blizzard. But the traffic jam is really arguably unnecessary. The truck getting stuck under the bridge, the pathway. So this big rig is getting stuck under the pathway. Again, we're talking about that taking that first step and so on. It's kind of I find that intriguing, and also the symbolism, the star and the A and all that. You can argue is Masonic. Again, I don't know what they spent a lot of money to set up the scene. It's not accidental. So I don't know what their intent was behind that, but I mean, you be the judge. I just find it intriguing nonetheless. More racism at the 60-minute marker. He's on the phone. He's talking to these unknown authority figures, and he can't get through to anyone in the city for whatever reason because of the blizzard, and now communication has stopped. And he's asking for satellite connection because he's a special person, and they won't allow it. And he goes, "I make the weather." So he's like, "Yeah, you know, I'm special. This is an emergency. You need to patch me through." And of course, they won't allow it. Yeah, but anyway, so in the background, again, you see this guy in his hat and so on. He's shoveling the snow, but he does this weird tongue thing. It's like and it's exaggerating. It's close to the glass, so they're really putting him in center point in the background, but still center point. and making him look really goofy and dumb. And next thing you know, he walks by and he nails the main character right in the head. Phil. Phil is the name of the character. Which also the Groundhog name is Phil. The Groundhog's name is Phil. Yeah, so again, he's being emasculated, and of course there's a racism attached to that, portraying another white man as a very stupid, which is extremely offensive. I don't know how Hollywood's got away with that for so long. It continues to, by the way. Okay, at 19. What the hell? Okay, so, all right, using the word hell, religious implications. So he's now seeing that he's stuck in time. It's the same day over and over again. It's winter, right? It's a blizzard. Wasn't a good day for him. So yeah, but I've kind of questioned though, is routine bad? I mean, certainly doing the same things while expecting different results is said to be crazy. But I would say that's different from routine, from stabilization. I mean, isn't culture and society and mass media pushing for chaos, anarchy? So why are we being critical of stability? At the 22-minute marker. Yeah, they love their ad placements. And here they're kind of selling insurance. I mean, they're making the guy a goof. And he's a funny character, this guy. And I've got a couple of clips that I'll be using regularly from this show that I've been thinking about doing anyway. But and I've used already. But yeah, he's quite the actor.
Bing! Bing again! Bing!
Bing!
Am I right or am I right or am I right? Right.
I still get a kick out of that. All right. So yeah, basically, yeah, even though they're making the guy look like a goof, he's pushing insurance and all that. And later in the movie, it's almost like reverse psychology. It's almost like, you know what, this bad character is bad for not wanting insurance. And at the end of the movie, a bit of a spoiler alert, he gets all this insurance, every plan, and now everyone's happy. Is that not an ad placement for insurance? Oy vey. Oy vey. All right. 23, more emasculation. He gets slapped. And so the response for this other character, the camera guy, who's in real life, I don't know if he's a pride guy or not. He really comes off that way. At any rate, they've got him as for at least the beginning of the movie, he's supposed to be the good, normal male who's mocking the emasculated, self-centered, typical alpha male, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, at this point he goes in that vein. If you need help with the other chick, let me know. Right after she slaps him. Okay, and why does she slap him? Because he asked, am I losing it? Am I going crazy? Smack me so I'll know. Yeah, anyway. There's more smacking and emasculation going on, of course. Okay, and so he's in the shower, and when he's stuck in a rut, and he gets doused with cold shower again. This happens on the first day, of course. And he yells out this time, "Oh my God!" Okay, so no big deal, right? I mean, it's a smaller sin. As Muslims would say, it's allowed. Just a little haram. It's okay. Whatever. Okay, so at the 27 marker, something about the lines getting fixed. So he's talking about that he's trying to tell her, hey, you know what, there's a problem. And she's the producer, by the way, in the movie. I mean, the character is the producer in this movie. And so he's talking about that there's no tomorrow. And he's saying that maybe this is heaven. He's starting to think, well, yeah, on his degrees of, well, maybe he's a god kind of thing. And he's also saying, you know what, you only live once. Well, what if I don't know. It's kind of weird. I would love to hear what John Sapphi's take on this is. I wonder if he interprets this as, well, you know what, we have a soul and we live forever kind of thing. I don't know about that. All right, so Yeah, a 32-minute marker. The discussion is, what if there were no tomorrow? And this is the main character, Phil, talking while he's driving. And these guys are drunk, so he's driving them home, so to speak, or trying to drive them home. But he goes haywire because you know what? There's no tomorrow, so well, they respond. We could do whatever we want. Well, there's no tomorrow. We're getting ready to die, so there's no consequences. So let's go crazy and do whatever you want. Anarchy. And this is a theme that you see over and over and over again in Hollywood movies. Early in my life, I remember Spies Like Us. The World War III was going to happen. Nuclear missiles. We haven't heard that before. And so therefore, it's time to do everything you wanted to do, like just sleep with any random person. And that was the solution of Spies Like Us. Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase. And yeah, but I mean, it goes on and on and on, really. And again, we see that now in the 21st century with that YOLO culture, which is complete asinine, absurd, and backward. If you only live once, if that's your concern, your main concern is dying, then why are you getting, why are you chasing death? Anyway, whatever. And acting stupid. I mean, it's just so bad. It's just so dumb. Naturally. All right, at the 48-minute marker. Okay, now he's trying to find out more about her. He's manipulated all these people, right? And so now he's trying to manipulate this girl, a girl that he's a bit taken by at first sight, but she's obviously repulsed by him. So, yeah, at the 48-minute marker, they say to a toast with their drink to world peace, amen. And by the way, in his trying to find out more about her, she, I guess, drank sweet vermouth when she was in Rome or something like that. And so he's like, yeah, it reminds me of Rome. And so there's a mockery of being in Rome as the sun sets and all that. You can say maybe it's not a mockery, but it just definitely feels that way. I mean, if you watch it, you'll see what I mean. At the 54-minute marker. Okay, so she's on to him finally. It's like, what's going on? Because he was trying to make a move on her. And so she's like, oh, wait a minute. I don't do this on the first date. He's being insistent because there's no tomorrow for him, right? He's always got to do all these crazy things. And she's like, no, I'm not having this. And then he's insistent. And so she's like, oh, wait a minute. Why are you saying this? Or why are you doing that? And he's like taking notes. Like, okay, what are you doing here? And she's like, finally realizes she's being manipulated and she's had enough. And so she reacts to him. And she has a meltdown and he consequently has one too. Oh, whimsical emasculation. Why do I call it whimsical? Because while she's smacking him very hard over and over again, and he talks about this scene, he talks about how he practically had to go to the hospital. She was just smacking him so hard over and over again. So she, at 56, by the way, why is it not okay to punch? And this is me talking, okay? And this is something that I've kind of wondered. At least it used to be that it was good, not even okay, but good to protect a woman's virtue. And her to defend herself, even by smacking a man who did an inappropriate advance. That was perfectly acceptable. I don't know what happened to that. Well, I do know what happened to that, and this is what I'm combating. But also, we talk about equality and all this queer stuff. Why is it not allowed to punch a queer in the face for inappropriate advance in the same way? That's what I need to know. I need to know that. It's quite important that we defend ourselves, especially these days, from the pedos, the queers, that especially as they encroach on our children. But even on us as adults, are we not allowed to defend ourselves? All right. Yeah. So at the 57 marker, so he's not getting what he wants. All right. So he's tried over and over again to repeat this manipulation, but he's not getting anywhere with her. She's got her virtue, and she's not having it. Well, he becomes extremely depressed. Why? Because he's not getting what he wants. Is it kosher? But, I mean, yeah, and I'm actually dealing with this in life personally. Quick side note. Yeah, I mean, just with inheritance, people encroaching on my inheritance, which is overdone. I mean, it's barely anything left of my inheritance. It's already been encroached on for quite a while. And then also I ended up in a family home, and people are just being deplorable with that too. I mean, I came in here thinking that I would take what's left of my family inheritance, fix it up. Everyone come in here to summer home freely. Instead of that, people are just being deplorable, and greedy and angry because, I mean, all of them are being angry because people didn't want to see them divorced. They didn't want to see a broken home. And so they're mad about that. Okay, this is too much information, personal information, but I'm just expressing how much I can relate, and probably many of us can, to this insanely bad behavior, to not getting what you want and having to have everything. In some cases, people just are insatiably greedy. I mean, I was told things like, well, what if the home can be sold for $1 million? And just using all unethical ways and refusing to have a proper communication, open communication about it. Yeah, I don't know. And again, with my own inheritance, the same thing. I mean, it's just deplorable. It's heartbreaking, really. More than anything else, heartbreaking. I'm quite disgusted. And I'll get into that in a minute, but I'll get to that in a minute. Let's move on. Yeah, but I'll say to those people, lighten up and get a grip, I mean, let's have some self-respect and get real. Get real with yourselves. Be honest with yourselves about what you're doing and becoming the very thing that you hated when you were young, by the way. That's all right. 30 years in advance. Okay, so in other words, this movie was in 1993. Here we are in 2024 now. For a couple of years, they've been talking about, the dark winter is coming. The dark winter is coming. Remember that? So, amen. Yeah. So at the 59-minute marker, he's had it. This is a dark winter. We're all going to hell. Excuse me. So it's that kind of thing. All right. So at the 1 hour and 4 minute marker, sorry about putting 104. It's 1 hour and 4 minute marker. There is an end to this. I'm sorry, typo. There is no end to this unless I put an end to it. So he's talking about, well, I don't want to give it away. I don't want to give everything away. And near the end, I'm going to warn you guys that I'm coming near the end because I don't want to give too much of the ending away either. Because if you haven't seen it already, I want you guys to check it out. But yeah, here we are again at this, going to the 6 o'clock time, starting the day over again. And I'm not going to tell you what happened before that because I want you to check it out. It's worth checking out. But the point here is that he believes he can take control everything, and he can put an end to it. And that's worth mentioning because that goes into the minds of many. I'm not saying that you can't influence others. Of course, whether you like it or not, you are influencing others. That's part of life. It's koinonia, if not anything else. And we're called to do that, by the way. But to think that you can control everything to a great scale is a whole other thing. That's something we should be mindful of and even avoid. Yeah, we can have great significance. Like my former co-host there, he did the whole Tommy Robinson walk, and they're having the crowd near the end with all the cameras and all of that moment where, again, he was prayerful and he shouted, stay focused and all that you can hear on the video. That was a historical moment. And I'm not saying that it's impossible to have a great impact on society worldwide. But that's a divine gift. That's a divine gift. Let's keep that in perspective. That's not coming from us necessarily, more so than God working through us, especially moments like that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Again, this is the 1 hour and 5 minute marker. Oh my God. And we hear that throughout mass media. There's some Christians that get offended by that. I understand that. And I'm not necessarily completely disagreeing with you. but there's greater blasphemy is being done. But that's still blasphemy, especially when it's done in a Pavlovian fashion. Here, he's now he's had it, and he couldn't. He changed the world, so now he's going to end his life, and he's trying to, kill himself over and over again, which is a bad thing to do. I'm not sure if it's a good thing or bad thing that she says, "Oh my God." I don't know. Maybe that's a prayer to save him. Maybe you can look at it that way. Again, around the same moment, now he's in a diner, and he's like, you know what? I'm omnipotent. I'm omnipresent. I can't be killed, and I know things. So he says, I'm a god, not the god, but a god. So, so now he's gone way off the reservation. Yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing, but this is actually common in society and people. So this is why this movie is brilliant. I just wish it pointed people to Christ, if not directly, explicitly, at least implicitly. And I'm not sure it does. I would argue maybe not, but it has redeeming values in a lot of them, and we're covering that. And again, I do encourage people to watch it if you haven't. All right, at the 1 hour 10-minute marker. Gee, this sounds like a science project. Okay, that's her, the producer, talking about how he wants her to hang out. So she doesn't believe him about all these things and how he has all this knowledge and how there's always, no matter what he does, he can't die, and there's, no tomorrow and this and that. Just stay with her and witness it. Be a witness to it. And she's like, all right, well, this sounds like a science project. But what I like about this is now he's opened the door. He's now letting her in. He's being genuine with her instead of manipulating her and all that. Now he's being honest. And through this dialogue, things begin to change. I'm getting into spoiler alerts here, folks. We're getting, of course, past the midpoint. So if you're going to watch this and you don't want spoilers, I encourage you to go ahead and tune out now. You can watch it and maybe watch us later if you want. Because I don't want to kill a good movie. It's a good movie. I do recommend it. And that's me recommending a movie. So that should say something. As much as I love Hollywood. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, let's not. Oh, I got that.
I love that actor. That's hilarious. All right. Next. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. At the 1 hour and 50-minute marker. So now we see a transformation in this guy. This guy that couldn't even foresee the weather. And he's a weatherman, right? That's his science. That's his livelihood. He couldn't discern the weather. He went through all this manipulation. He went through extreme depression. He became suicidal. He wanted to destroy others, the world, so to speak. And so then he's like, okay, you know what? Let me just put it out on the table. And the woman that was beyond his reach, so to speak, that was not having any of his shenanigans, suddenly is now open to him. And her willingness to share some of her love with him all of a sudden transforms this guy. I mean, it's quite powerful and moving. Suddenly now, instead of mocking the homeless man, he's like pulling out a wad of money. Here, let me help you out. He's like celebrating life all of a sudden. Hallelujah. Can I get an amen? Yeah, her love makes him want to be a better person. That's from another movie. As good as it gets. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. At the 1 hour, 20-minute marker. He sees the homeless man later that evening, the same day. He's still in the same day, over and over again. But he's like, he sees something's wrong. He's like, hello, Father, remember me? And so he grabs him and he wants to save him from death. And by the way, this whole reference of father, I couldn't quite make it what he says, but I'm pretty sure he says father. He also calls him pops, which is more common. But so now suddenly he sees this homeless man that he wants to help and has been treating like dirt all this time as a father figure. that he wants to save. Yeah. There's some cool things about that. Hello. Get that from down under. That's a good way to put it. All right, so yeah, let's get into that. So let's talk about. And by the way, those that kind of I'm compelled to say, and I hear this a lot in these circles, and I'm quite offended by it because their intent is obvious. Be mindful to not tear others from God. You can sin because you can repent from sinning. You can fix that. But if you tear others from God, how do you fix that? That is the worst possible thing. That is what I'm here combating. And those that undermine Christianity, whoever they are and whatever degree they do it, I rebuke. I spit on you, Satan. So those that mock people that show respect for clergy, shame on them. They disgust me. Let me be clear and frank on that. I'm not going to hold back on that. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Silence your wagging tongue. Get your ego in check. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, so at the 1 minute and 21 minute, I'm sorry, 1 hour and 21 minute marker, sometimes people just die, the nurse says. Not today, he says. No, he's going to save them. No matter what, he's going to find a way to save them. And again, spoiler alerts, check out the movie for yourself if you haven't already. This is an interesting discussion. I mean, can we? Yes, we do influence our environment, whether we like it or not. That's just reality. And it kind of delves into this nature versus nurture discussion, in that regard. And he also talks about transhumanism. I mean, people who are anti-Christian take this to the extreme, thinking that somehow technology is better, like a microchip is better than a brain. Are they nuts? They can't even get a cell phone to work more than a couple of years. They can't even get the internet to work properly. And it's better than a brain? These people are whack, man. They're wondrously backward, diabolically idiotic. Sorry. All right, enough of the adjectives. It's just so frustrating. All right. So at the 1 hour and 23 minute marker, he becomes a good Samaritan. Now his life is completely changed. It's no longer about him, and it's rather about his relationship with society, with the world. Wow. And not only that, at the beginning of the movie, he's an obnoxious meanie. Okay, I'm struggling to find the right adjective. Right? And he's like full of cynicism and all that. He's aloof. He doesn't care. He's apathetic. But suddenly now he's running around helping people and even saves his child. And the child doesn't even thank him. He's like teaching the kid manners. What do you know? He's teaching the kid manners. What a turnaround. Glory be to God. Or it should be. I don't know if this movie pulls it off really well, but. Okay, so Kinunia. Again, I encourage people to look that up. Some view it, or I for a while viewed it merely as the Eucharist, but not necessarily. If you see it as much more involved, and if you're within the faith, you can see how even in that walk in life, it's obviously much more involved. It's a weekly, daily walk toward that pinnacle, communing with God. But that's what all the laws are hanged on, the greatest two commandments. Our relationship with everyone else, with others, and our love for God with all our being. That's Kinunia. That sums up Kinunia. So at the 1 hour, 1.5 hour marker, he becomes a fisher of men. The community loves him now. He's no longer egocentric and all that, but he's given of himself to others openly. Yeah, it's just really moving. It's really powerful. And the scene with the old man, I'm not going to ruin that either, but I will encourage you to watch it. I did my best to leave some things out intentionally because I don't want too many spoilers. But yeah, now we're coming to the end of the movie, so I'm giving things away. Again, tune out if you're planning on watching it and enjoy. All right, at the 1 hour and 31 minute marker, they're doing a auction for men. And so he goes up there and the bid goes up to $300. But now this guy who was critical of the main character, Phil, the cameraman, he becomes the Hollywood typical trope of a man, completely slimy and all these things. Which is, I guess they needed to keep that rhetoric going. And so now that our main character is transformed, now he takes that role. So because we've got to keep that going. Men are horrible, they're evil, all these things, cute at least. So yeah. So basically, well, I'm killing it, spoiler alert, but it's kind of funny this moment, even though I'm complaining about emasculation. Yeah. And so, ultimate spoiler. I'm sorry. I did warn you though. At the 1 hour 35-minute marker, anything different is good. He goes, something's different. Because guess what time it is? Can anyone in the chat tell me what time it is right now? But things are different. She's still with him. Everyone loves him, and he is a transformed person. He's been redeemed. Glory be to God. By the way, I'm still at odds. Anything different is good. I mean, that's something a mass media messaging, and it's worth discussing. Absolutely. Well, we've got to all be different. We're all got to be individuals, and everything's got to be different. Everything's got to be random, and get a grip on reality. The best thing is stability. No news is good news. If, as a good friend once put it to me, a friend from Lebanon, who I can't say his name, I'll say Tom. Tom, pray for Tom, please. He went under some hard times. A very spiritual person. He unfortunately was a Rastafarian, and that digressed into other drugs, and he's kind of disappeared on me. But as a spiritual person, he challenged me with this. And I was like, ho hum, I'm kind of bored. He's like, Nick, if you have the luxury of being bored, then chances are you're doing okay. Yeah. I'll just leave that there. Okay. I think that pretty much gets all of it. Let me make sure. Yep, that's it. All right. And that's my presentation for today on the movie. There were some notes that I wanted to cover. Yeah, I covered them already at the beginning, but let's redo it. Unfortunately, I X'd out of all the links that I already shared. Do I need to share those again? No. Well, yeah, basically, yeah, a continuation of the discussion from last week. How mass media has influenced us, has promoted paganism. I would argue this movie does the same, even though from our Christian perspective, it promotes Christian values. I don't know if it did that. It definitely didn't do it explicitly. That's one of the movies that I didn't see a sign of the cross, by the way, which I find interesting. So there you go. I mean, if you're going to do Pavlovian things, why not put the cross in there? Why not put Jesus Christ in there? If it's Christian, if it's a Christian message, at least somewhere, at least center point background, like Hollywood loves to do. None. Not that I mean, if you watch it, correct me. And if there is one, please give me the minute marker. So, I can check it out myself. But yeah, I think this is more like the original Star Wars trilogy, where all my life I saw it as a Christian message, and I'm working on a short, by the way, of that Christian message. But in retrospect, yeah, it's just really California spiritual, and even more so these days in the sequels that they created and all these things. Took it to and prequels, they took it to a whole new other place, made it transhumanistic and all these others pagan things. So yeah, we just got to be mindful. I mean, it's good to spread the gospel and see things in a positive, good way, see the good things, but we also got to be realistic and be mindful about what we're letting in. I'm a little disoriented because I forgot to with the microphone thing. So I'm not sure. I might just go ahead and leave it at this. But with that being said, let me at least go ahead and put the link in there if you guys want to come up and add any comments or anything like that. And I appreciate the comments. And let me go back over the comments you guys gave earlier. I noticed I was not. Yes. And there was 6s everywhere in this movie in case you missed it. And thank you again. Yeah, I'm trying to do a fundraiser for a replacement computer. I've took about 10% was raised for that, and I actually took it to spend it on an external hard drive. I'm applying it to that, which I appreciate, and it's already helped things dramatically, even though it doesn't seem like it, even if we get into anyway. I'll get the hang of this. I apologize for doing that again. It's easier when you have a co-host. Somehow it keeps you more in point, and you don't forget to put yourself on stage and unmute. But anyway. Yeah, I think we've covered everyone. Again, thank you for all your support. I can't thank you enough. Okay, let me share the link down here in the chat again. And yeah, the stage is open if you want to come up and add anything, or if you want to just add it in the description afterward. I just want to also, let me take a minute to talk politics. I mean, this whole theme today of doing the same things while expecting different results. Yeah. Is it a coincidence that we're kind of fixated on this green agenda? By the way, how have they gotten away? We think that this rainbow thing, well, it is. At least it's open now. It's overt and obnoxiously belligerent by design. This whole, queer, pedo, public promotion and execution of those who speak against it. The witch hunt for Christians and their children. But it's really been something that's been implemented for a while. It's just been done covertly. And one of my childhood favorites was Moby Dick, right? Why? Because I said Dick, right? So even as an adult, I get a kick out of that. I get, tickled by that, I should say. But that being said, why have we allowed that? Why have we allowed that for so long and so many other things? Isn't it time we said no? Enough's enough, no? Yeah, so, this brainwashing and so on has been going on for a while. We're supposed to be fishers of men, but really because of our silence, our fear of talking about religion or politics in public, as mass media conditioned us to do, has kept us silent, to be politically correct, not offend anyone. And now the offense is with everyone. They're offending each other, us, creation, God, by design. It's not too late. We do need to keep fighting. And yeah, I mean, I could go on about this. And I have, and I will. I'll continue to do this until they silence me. I'm waiting at any door. By the way, I'm going to get a creepy here. Let me just tell you guys, I've had a couple of premonitions in my life. Both of them came out. One of them was when I was on the Holy Mountain. The second one, it's a few years ago. I had this weird, while I was sleeping, a premonition of this weird character coming into the little monastery I was in, called the Kili, and coming to kill. And I freaked out and I headbutted the guy. And as I headbutted the guy, I headbutted the wall and woke up and then went right back to sleep. And then I don't know how much time later, but sometime later, there was a banging on the door. And it would just mean one other monk, the elder was away, and the other monk was away. And because of that dream, I didn't go down to open the door. And then later, the guy came in and started saying, hello, whatever. And then he quickly left. So I guess he realized there was someone in the house. And so that monk later, the other monk that was in the house, asked me if I heard the door, and I said yes. And he's like, and I said, why you ask? He said, well, that guy is known to go around to different monasteries and steal things, and he's even injured or killed someone. And then I got to say, I saw him again a couple of years later at a beach, just randomly at a different part of Greece. And yeah, I just saw him in the eyes, and immediately, I had no interaction with the guy except for maybe seeing him on the Holy Mountain as a beggar. Outside of that, I really said nothing to him. But outside of that, even that day, he didn't see me. So, but yet, that day at the beach, when he saw me in the eyes, he had panic in his eyes, and he started literally running away from me. I mean, you guys make what you want out of that. At any rate, I've had another premonition about this family home, this weird shadowy figure that shows up on my doorstep to do me harm. But I'm done running. I'm going to stand my ground. These people are being evil. I'm trying to have open discussion with them. They've been avoiding it. So, pray for me and pray for them that things will not go down in a bad way, but rather we will all get redeemed. I do pray and hope for that. But I'm starting to think that the way they continue, they'd rather be crafty and be angry, like I said, for people now wanting a broken home, insatiable greed. That's their motivation. I mean, it's pure, obvious evil and becoming the things that they despised, no less. Please pray for them and for the situation. I hope that we overcome it, not because I have need, and I have great need, obviously, but for them too, just all around. It's just bad. It's evil. It's biblical. But I pray and hope that it can be resolved through faith and through love. That's my hope. I'm going to put myself out there, even though I had this premonition for the third time in my life. I'm going to stand my ground and hold out and hope that this has a happy ending. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to cover. Again, I've covered some things in the beginning. I shared the videos. Here we go. On the back of that, let me share this.
Now tell me what I want to hear. I want your DOR.
No, sir.
I want your DOR.
I ain't gonna quit.
Spell it. DOR.
I ain't gonna quit.
Yeah, then you can be free and you and your daddy can get drunk and go hog chasing together, huh?
No, sir.
DOR.
I ain't gonna quit.
All right, then you can forget it. You're out.
Don't you do it. Don't you. I got nowhere else to go. I got nowhere else to go. I got nothing else. I got nothing else.
Yeah, that's a scene that was really popular. I think it's from the 80s. An Officer and a Gentleman with Deborah Winger. So, yeah, but we always have a choice. I mean, that's the reality. Even though some of our options can be quite bad, we always have a choice. Amen. So, yeah. But anyway, that was worth showing. It was an influential scene, and again, but Hollywood, for whatever reason, likes to make fun of its own value, its own redeeming value for whatever reason. This is a short that I put out, but it's worth sharing. Let me share this again.
How you doing, Toby?
Just fine, Chuck.
Yeah, tell me about yourself.
Well, I mentioned about being a trivia expert. I like trivia misinformation. People that think they know the answer to something and the answer's wrong.
Oh, like?
Well, for instance...
Give me one real quick. That's a...
what's the next line from Vengeance is Mine?
Saith the Lord.
Wrong. See what I mean? This is the misinformation. People will
Vengeance is mine, saith...
Vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord.
Oh, that's exactly.
People will bet the car, the house, the farm, and their firstborn on questions like that.
You're absolutely right. And you can make an enormous amount of money.
I have.
Yes. How about money is the root of all evil?
Love of money is the root of all evil.
Thank you. Absolutely right. See?
I'm sorry, Chuck.
That's right. No. I knew that. See, love of money. Most people miss that. You're the challenger. We got to get out of this and get on with our game, or we're in trouble.
Yeah, I notice at the very end is we got to get on with our game, get out of this conversation, or we'll be in trouble. But anyway, Chuck Woolery in that show Scrabble, a game show, he for a while went on with his writers and producers about how raunchy the writing in the show was getting. So I commend him for that, and publicly I've taken that fight in front of the church, so to speak. That was That was wonderful. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. I know I'm forgetting something, but unfortunately, the first 15 minutes or so was me talking and nobody hearing anything, but there were some videos shared there. I'll go back and edit it. It's going to take me 24 hours just because of the YouTube back and forth. It takes forever for some reason. But I'll get that done. My apologies about that. Yeah, that's all I got. All right, so with that, I just want to remind everyone, blessed are those who endure to the end. And let's close out with a little prayer together. Let's do the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, both now and ever to the ages of ages. Amen. Again, thank you for being here. God bless you all. And never surrender. I see.
Thank you.